God. What do you think of when you hear the word God? If you find that word a little scary or triggering, it's not just you. Sadly, today, so much prominent religious teaching is based on fear. Fear of God. Fear of God's punishment. I get messages where people warn me that I'm not afraid enough of God's judgment and that I should be. Listen to what this woman wrote me. My friend, how are you? I just want to let you know you're under the wrath of God. Jesus came to teach only the Father's doctrine. It would be wise for you to look in the Old Testament and find out what that is. I pray you will sit and fast and seek the Lord in the truth, because it's the last days and you will have to answer for who you will serve. What will you tell the Father when you meet him at that great white throne of judgment? Do you hear how this whole thing is soaked in fear? Have you ever been asked a question like that by people who say, my friend, how are you? My son, I love you. My daughter, I'm afraid for you. And then they tell you you're under the wrath of God? If you don't really have your legs under you, a comment like that can be very scary and knock you off your feet. Here's how I answered her. Beloved, don't you think I have bathed this in prayer and deep study from the start? Of course I have. I was in the conservative church. Of course I prayed, and God did answer, and God told me to love without condition, without condemnation. Take care of the ones others are shunning. How will I answer for my actions? I'll say, God, I loved everybody you put on my path as well as I could, even when the church didn't like it, even when pastors and Christians maligned me, even when relatives abandoned me. You said to love that feels like love, and I did. And what do you think God will say? Yes, you love people that others have trampled over, just as I asked. Well done. Any view of God other than that is not from God, not from Jesus, not from Paul or Abraham or Moses. We need to get clear in our heads that the Old Testament, that Old Testament image of a judgmental, wrathful, vindictive God that so many Christians like this woman want us to believe in, is not the picture of God that Jesus shows us. We know that because Jesus disrupted all the religious leaders in his day who pushed that wrathful God on people in their care. Every time they brought that image of a wrathful God to Jesus, he said, how dare you take the precious hearts of these little ones who seek God and tell them they're not acceptable, that they must keep your rules, jump through your hoops for you to say God loves them. How dare you? Matthew 23 is one of the passages that show us that people who push this kind of vengeful, punishing God are dead wrong. Listen to another verse in 1 John 4 that talks about God's rich, full, complete, mature love. It says, there is no love in fear, no fear in love. No, on the contrary, God's unbounded, fully mature love expels all fear, chases fear away, because fear is tormenting. If we're afraid, it is because of fear of punishment. Whoever is fearful has not been ripened and matured in love. That's powerful. If you're teaching a wrathful God, please stop. Stop speaking for God. You're not. If someone who's been hurt by this kind of God, if you're someone who's been hurt by this kind of teaching about God, stop listening. Do your best to stop listening. You too look at Matthew 23 to see how Jesus condemns people who beat you up with a wrathful God. He doesn't pull any punches. Look at 1 John 4 to see that God absolutely loves you. And if we're afraid of God or judgment or hell, it's only because we've been taught to, and because we don't yet fully comprehend that God that God absolutely loves us, adores us. Our picture is on God's fridge. Yes, your picture is on God's fridge. In the rest of the series, we'll talk directly about hell. Meanwhile, take heart, be at peace, go love and be loved. You are beloved.